Right, so in this project, we'll be going over a different tech stack and how to install it on a EC2 instance. So the tech stack in this case we're going to be using is Linux, Nginx, MySQL, and PHP. And so we're all going to be installing that on the EC2 instance. So I'll start off by going through the steps. So I'm already logged into the AWS console, so I'll just go to instances. I'll click launch. I'll just name this project 2, and then I'll choose Ubuntu as the AMI. Make sure that it's free tier eligible, and then we can scroll down to key pair. Definitely want a key pair. This is one I created before. Put that, and so to make things easier, I can launch the instance immediately and then add in the security group to allow SSH traffic and to allow HTTP traffic. But you can also do it in the console. So what you can do is you make sure that this is checked off so that way you can SSH into the instance. You won't have to go to the security group and then add it. And then, so we'll make sure this is checked off. This is checked off. And then we'll click launch. So while that is being configured and launched, I have the documentation over here that I put already. So we're just going to follow these steps, and also all the command that I'll use is in this documentation as well, which I'll be going over while I do the project. So all of this is here. Everything is outlined on the side. I'll share this in the description below, and you'll have access to it, be able to view it, and so on. So let's go back. Okay, so now the instance is running. So first thing I do, I'll click on the instance. Then we can check the security group. Let's see. And so if I go to edit, so we're gonna be needing to SSH into the instance. So port 22 needs to be open. And so, like I said, we could have added it if we hadn't checked that box off to allow SSH, we just would have had to add it in. And same thing with HTTP. Port 80 allows you to connect to it in the browser. If we hadn't checked off that box, we would have had to add it on in the security groups. But it's here already, so we don't need to do that. So let me go back to instances that's running, and then what I do is I click connect and then go to SSH client. So this is what we're going to copy and paste into Putty, which is how, if you're on Windows, you would connect to your EC2 instance that you just made. So what I'm gonna do is I'll go to Putty here. And so right now we're looking at Putty. So, and I have the configuration saved already. So I'll click load, but just the overview. So what happens is here's where that IP address goes, or actually this right here. So this instance address, copy that, that goes in here. And so that's where that goes. And then next, what you would do is you need to go to SSH and go to authority, go to credentials. And so pretty much when you have your key pair, what would happen is you would have to go to Party Keygen, then load private key, and then it would be all files because pretty much what happens is when you create a new key pair, it's going to be in PEM format. You're going to have to load it. So I'll click open, but pretty much you would have to click save private key, and then this would just convert it into PPK, which is what is used in PuTTY. So I would close this for now. And then, yeah, once you do that, then you'll just make sure private key file for authentication. You make sure to click browse and make sure to put the PPK file that was created from you converting it from PEM to PPK. Make sure you put that in there. And then also same thing in this box as well. Then once you do that, just make sure to hit save just in case if anything happened. And then you'll click open. And it's gonna ask me, oh, it's not cached for the server. You have no guarantee that the server is the computer you think it is. Do you want to trust this? Click accept, connect once, cancel more info. So I'm gonna click accept. And so now it's saying login as. So for the EC2 instances, when you're logging in, usually the username is before the IP address. So in this case, it would be Ubuntu would be the user, and then it says at EC2 18 210 6223. So I'll just put Ubuntu so it loads up and we're in. So first thing we'll do, I'll minimize this like that. Do that, make it easier. So first command we're going to run, I'll go to the beginning. I'm going to do sudo app update. So what this does is just updates all the packages within Linux currently. Make sure everything is up to date. Any new files that need to be added gets added. Okay, so we see that that's done. So next, we're going to do sudo apt install nginx. So hit enter. It's going to say, do you want to continue? And make sure you have the Y, uppercase Y, and then now it's installing it. Okay, everything seems to be good. And so now to make sure that it's running, what we do is we use sudo systemctl status nginx, which this command basically means if we go through it word by word, sudo, it taking a temporary permission as the root user to run system command, make sure that is it running and the status. So basically we're seeing the status of nginx. Is it running? So I'll do that. So we see that it's active, is running, see the processes, the tasks, the memory, CPU, etc. So just think of systemctl as like what's going on with the service. Is it running? Where is the documents located? Process, etc. So here, once you do that, you can just press Q in the terminal to quit. And so once we see that it's active and running, we know that it's installed. So now let's say the next step is to get our IP address. And so we use curl and this right here. So HTTP, and then it has the IP address slash latest slash metadata slash public IPv4. So IPv4 is talking about the IP address. So when you run this, it'll give you the IP address of your instance. So you click enter, and then here it lets you know our IP address is 18.210.6.233. And so you can do it through the terminal, or if you want, we can also could have just went back here, and then what I do is EC2 instance connect and go here, and it has it right there. Or when you go back, click on instances, and you click on the instance that's running, you can also see the IP address there. But now that we have the IP address, and we've seen earlier that we do have port 80 open, so we should be able to go to it. So let's see, open up a new tab, and then we see, welcome to Nginx. So now we know that it's working and we have connection to it. Port is open. So that was the first step. So we're going to the next step. We're going to install MySQL. So I'll clear the screen. So what I'll do is do Control L. Control L clears the screen, or you can type clear in the terminal and it'll also clear the screen for you. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to install MySQL. So I'll copy and paste the command. So same thing, sudo apt install MySQL. So we're taking temporary permissions as the root user to install MySQL. So it's going to download all the packages. And once that hits 100%, should be good to go to keep going. All right, it's done. So now we can do sudo MySQL, which basically logs us into MySQL as the root user. So now we're in SQL. And so now we can do a bunch of different things, but first thing we'll do is that we'll alter the root user and give them a new password. So basically the user that's named root at localhost, identified with MySQL, we're gonna make its password become ABC123. For the purposes of this project video, it's simple, but in a work environment, definitely don't want to make a simple password like that. And so it says query okay, 0 rows affected. So that means it went through. So first we're going to do is exit. And then now we're going to do sudo MySQL secure installation. And so what's going on here? Then it's going to ask me for the password. So we know it's ABC123. And then now it's asking me, hey, do I want to test the passwords, improve security? And so if I say yes, what will happen is that it'll validate passwords based on strength. So, and the strength being from 100 to 300. And so, as the higher up you go, you need to have, some symbols. Yeah, password length got to be a certain requirement, stuff like that. But for now, I'm gonna click no or end for no. So you can change the password. That's what's gonna ask next. So we'll say no. You could say remove anonymous users, which basically means that you need to have an account. It'll remove any other accounts, and you're making sure that you need to have an account to log in. Then now it's asking for root login remotely. So you say yes. Pretty much, you can't just log into root remotely by just running the command. Test database and have access to it. Do that. Reload privilege table. Do that. Then it's all done. So now, now we're done with that. What we can do is let's check now. So use sudo my SQL. And so as you can see, what happened was because we denied um, root login remotely, it won't allow us to log in. But what will happen is if I do -p, it's going to ask for the password. And so now I'm back in. And so the P just basically adding the P onto it and made us ask for the password so that we're able to log in. So, because as for an example, if you don't want someone within, your company, just anyone just logging into root, that's how you would deny the access, making everything more secure. And so in this case, that's what we did. So I click exit, and then we'll go on to install in PHP. So same thing, sudo apt install PHP. And we'll do that. It's gonna ask for, do you want to continue? Click yes. Gonna install the packages. And then when it's done, we will continue. Yeah, so now that PHP is installed, what we can do is now go to step 4. So now configuring Nginx to use PHP processor. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a directory. And so that's what mkdir is, make directory. So we're going to be using the root permissions temporarily. I'm going to make a directory in var/www/ and we're going to name it project LNMP. And so now that directory is there. And then this sudo chown, basically what's going on here is that we're giving permissions to the current user that's being used right now, and we're giving them access and having them get all permissions to this directory project link. So that's what the chown-r is. So this command basically does. So now we're going to have permissions, all permissions to that directory we just created. And then we have sudo nano. And what we're going to do now is we're going to create a file, or we're going to edit the file that we created in project link. So, Nano, thing of Nano is a text editor. So as you can see, we're in the file right now. It's a blank screen, but here you can type, copy and paste. So what we'll do is we'll copy and paste this into that file. Then to copy and paste, what I've been doing is right clicking. I can do Control C, and then I just right click in the terminal and it'll paste. And so let's go over this. So pretty much right here, we have listen 80. So it's talking about port 80. And we know port 80 allows you to get onto the website. If it's open, you can just paste the IP address and you'll be able to go to the web page. So server name is going to be Project LNMP. So that's the name. The root. So it's talking about where is it located? You know it's located in var/www/project index. Here is just talking about what files is going to prioritize first. So it's going to prioritize index.html files first, then index.html files second, then index.php files third. And then we have location. So it's talking about the location of PHP and the different files where it's at. And then we have a deny all. So that ends that. And so once that's copied and pasted into here, what we're going to do is going to do Control X, and then we're going to have press Y. At the bottom it says save, press Y, and then now it's saying file name to write. And so the file name is already written. And so all we have to do is just press enter. And so now that that's done, and so next we're going to run this command, which is basically we're going to activate it, activate what we just did. So copy that. So now it's enabled. Then I'm going to do this. Same thing with Nginx, that command. And so what this command just did, it just checked the syntax and of the configuration file that we basically just made, or the Nginx configuration file. So yeah, as you can see, it came out. Syntax is okay. The test is successful. So once we know that, we know everything is good. And now we can disable the default Nginx host and reload Nginx. And so also, I do have it explained here as well in the documentation. And so like in this case, after this, when I said I also disabled the default Nginx host and reloaded Nginx to apply the changes, basically this command, what this does is it's disabling the default web page. And so the default web page is this. And so once we do that, we disable the default web page. And then for the changes to take effect, we have to reload Nginx again. And so now that it's reloaded, let's see, refresh. See, we have a 403 forbidden error. And so that's what the page is going to be. So now, what's going to happen is in this command, echo is basically just repeat. So We're gonna have hello LEMP from hostname dash var www project html. So what's going on here is first we're going to have the output. We're going to have the output of this demand put into this file location. So echo, all it does is just going to repeat what it says. So what's going to happen is it's going to say it again. So just to show you, like, let's say if I just put that part in, see, it didn't come up. That's because I missed the quotation mark. So there you go. So now that command right there just says echo hello web from hostname. So now we're going to put this output into the file that's going to be created within the var directory www project lib, yeah, index.html. And so as we know from earlier, index.html files will be prioritized over the other index files. So that's why it's being created there. So put that. And the index.html file is the website. So once I click refresh, over hello web from hostname. So now basically in that file, you can cat same thing slash var www project index. And so same thing. So basically what we're doing, so what you realize is now anything we input into this index.html file is going to pop up here. So you don't even have to put hello lemp from hostname. I can put, I'm gonna press up on the arrow key and it goes back to the recent commands that was run. I could even do, say, hello, I am from New York. This is just as an example, like that. And it pops up here. So, all right. And now that that is done, we can move on to step 5, testing PHP. So I'll clear the screen, Control L. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do nano again. And this time we're going to, in the project lemp uh, directory, we're going to have a file named info.php. And we're going to edit inside there. So here is what we're going to put PHP, PHP info. And so all of this, by putting it into this file, what happens is it'll pull up the PHP info from the EC2 instance. So because we installed PHP already, it's just going to pull the data from it. So that's what that we just pasted into the file. So I'll do Control X, press Y to save, and then we'll press Enter. And then now the next step is put in the public address, a public IP address, and then slash info.php. So we already have our IP address right here. And then once you add info.php, so see now it pulls up the PHP version, Ubuntu, and then it has all data about this EC2 instance. All of it is in here. So a bunch of different files, you name it, everything is all in this. And so That's one way. So now we basically use our IP address to show the PHP version onto. So now if I go back, then next thing we're going to do, we're going to remove it. So while this contains a lot of information, it's definitely not something we want to keep there. So what we're going to do is remove it. So sudo rm, pretty much rm is remove, and we're going to remove project the info.php file pretty much. Let me, I think it pasted it twice. That, then click refresh the page, back to the 404 not found. Okay. So now we're on to the last step. So, and it's retrieving data from SQL database with PHP. So I'm going to sudo mysql -p, enter the password, and then what we're going to do, we're going to create a database. It's going to be named example database. Then we're going to create an example user. Okay. And then now we're going to grant all permissions on the database to example user. And then I'm just going to hit exit, type exit. And then now, instead of sudo mysql -p is what we've been using since, we disabled remote login access to SQL. I'm now going to use mysql -u, so user, sample user -p. That. It's going to access the password. And so now we're in. And so the password, for example, if you was wondering how, if we go back to this command, basically if we go over it saying create user, name of it is going to be example user, and then it says identify the MySQL native password by. So it's basically saying what is the password for the user. And so in the quotation marks that's here, that's where you would put the password. And so in this case, because I put the password as password, that would be the password for this user account. Yet again, not the most safe or strong password. So while for project purposes, I made it easy, but definitely within a company, if you want to keep your data and everything safe, definitely would want to have a stronger password than that. But in this case, we're not. So moving on from there. Now I'm going to do show databases. So we see here. So now we see 3 databases. Now I'm going to create a table. Do that. So now I'm going to insert into that table have my first important item. So this could be anything. It doesn't even have to be the first important item. So what I'll do is let me expand this out. So we can do something like okay, okay. Just wanted to clear something right quick. Just delete this. Then you have to create the table, insert. All right. So now it can be something like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, do something like that. So now we have all of those created. So let's see. So we're going to select that database. And so what happens is what we basically did was sort of like cat out, like how you would catenate, basically list what is in the file. We sort of did that with select. So we select the database, then put it in a list. So listed out everything. Then we're saying we have error, and looks like the error is I posted it. It went through twice. So there you go. Yeah, so you see the command still worked in this case, but it still showed an error at the end. But yeah, there you go. So now we see first, second, third, fourth, and fifth item. And so after that, we can just exit. Um, so what happened there is I noticed that MySQL wasn't there. So what I did was Control C. Usually Control C would exit you out anything like that. Sometimes in the terminal as well, where you would run a command and the user and everything that usually is before you start writing would just disappear. So Control C would get me out of that. So we want to exit now. So I'll just type in exit. And then now I'm going to create another file in the project length in the var slash www slash project length. We'll create another file called to-do list.php. And so in this file, we're gonna put this in there. Basically, we can go over it here. We're gonna user, name is example user, password is password. The database is called example database. The table is called to-do list. And then it has try. And here, see you have database, the host, user password. It's going to echo that. And so from there, that's what you're going to put into the file. So same thing, Control X, save, press Y, file name to write. You don't have to write anything, just click enter. And then now same thing. So just like how the IP address we had added slash info.php. Now we can add slash to-do list dot php. So I exit that. And so now we have our to-do list in HTML. So real simple, just says to do, and then it has the list, that table that I created in MySQL. And so what we just did was I just set up the stack, allowing me to serve PHP websites and interact with MySQL databases. And so we installed PHP, we installed MySQL, as you saw just now, made the table, we created the PHP file, and what will happen is it just takes the data from this table and we'll put it onto HTML, the website, and the IP address, and that's how. So the same table that we made here, we made it on here. And so that pretty much ends the project. And so just for purposes, I don't remember if I said it, but basically what this means is an abbreviation. So it's Linux, L is for Linux, N is for Nginx, M is for MySQL, P is PHP. And so, yeah, I'll make all of this available for you to look and go through. And that's it. So I will see you in the next video.